Welcome everybody, Souldin of the Grin Brothers here, and it's time for another episode of Tea Time. Now then, for today's tea, which I'm dying to have because I'm so thirsty at the moment, so absolutely parched. For today's tea, I've got here Tippy Assam, which isn't the same thing as regular Assam because it's called Tippy Assam, which is a really weird name. Read the description. It's once again a tea from my Wittard 12 Teas of Christmas package. Tippy Assam is a black tea, and its description goes as follows. This golden tipped tea is sweet and malty, scrumptious with jam and crumpets. Didn't I already have this one before? Well, let me see here. No, that was English Rosehud last time, which also said it was, it said it was good with scones rather than crumpets, but, seemingly got a lot of good teas to have with scones and crumpets here. Yeah, I'm having it with milk. It's a black tea, so of course, I try all my teas first out with milk anyway. But it's black tea, so I'll probably usually have it with milk almost all the time. There's some teas are better, black teas are better without milk, but I find that's very few of them. They have to have very distinct tastes. I think it was Spice Imperial was one of them where it's a black tea where it's better without milk. Pretty sure that's the name of the one I liked without milk. In any case, for today's tea time, I guess the subject will be, well, I'm not so much guessing because I know the subject will be the Fire Emblem Direct that happened recently. I was going to record in the night, but I was tired and I'd worked the next morning, so I really didn't feel like doing so. In fact, that's been a problem trying to do a lot of these. But yeah, the Fire Emblem Direct was recently occurred. Focusing on a bunch of Fire Emblem games. It only lasted for about 18 minutes, so it wasn't a very long direct, but I didn't mind that too much given that I'm not really a Fire Emblem fan. I don't have much investment in the game. The only reason I really watched it was to see more of Fire Emblem Warriors, because I do like Koei Tecmo games. And, of course, I'm looking forward to Fire Emblem Warriors, so I wanted to see that pop up. That was actually one of the smallest parts of the entire Nintendo Direct, unfortunately, but I'll get more onto that in a moment. The Fire Emblem Direct, the title shall have popped up by now, of course, not sure what it is, probably just Fire Emblem Direct. It was narrated entirely by Crom's voice actor, Yuri Lowell, I believe it is, and so it had a great charm to it. There was a sort of initial trailer, which was eventually revealed to be a new Fire Emblem game for 3DS, called, it was Fire Emblem Echoes, I think it is. I forgot to actually write. Yeah, no, here. Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Lentia. I thought I forgot to write that down. It's a remake, or as they call it, a reimagination, but come on, let's be honest, it's a remake, of Fire Emblem Gaiden, otherwise known as Fire Emblem 2, which of course was Japan exclusive, coming out on the Famicom. But now it's finally coming out overseas, and apparently it's known within the Fire Emblem series for being one of the most unique entries. It differs a lot. But a lot of the ways it differs, it looks kind of cool. Being able to roam dungeons and having a more traditional RPG feel to it, sort of combined with its SRPG genre, defining genre. Which I think is pretty darn cool. The main heroes are Alm and Celica. And they've got a new sort of art style from the looks of it, and honestly, from what I've seen of some of the characters of fiction, such as Celica's from Fire Emblem Awakening, I actually preferred her artwork in the DLC she was for Awakening. I believe that was by an artist known as Masatsugu Saito. It's probably Masatsugi, but it's using a U, so Masatsugu is how I pronounce it. Though I've heard that Masatsugu Saito is apparently the artist, or a artist, in Xenoblade 2. The art does seem similar to the red-headed girl in the Xenoblade 2 trailer. Did look quite like the Celica artwork. Well, maybe it does help that they had the same hairstyle, but in any case, that's actually a Fire Emblem game I'm somewhat interested in. Of the Fire Emblem games currently out, that's probably the one the Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, that's probably the one I'd lean to end up getting the most. But at the same time, I'm not very good with SRPGs, and if I was going to play a Fire Emblem game, I'd play one which I've got more of an attachment into and interest in playing, such as the Game Boy Advance Fire Emblem Sacred Stones, I believe it is. Or, of course, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, Radiant Dawn, starring Messiah, because of course I'm collecting Wii games and I plan to play through every one I collect. So of course I'll inevitably end up playing that because it's a Wii Fire Emblem game. Radiant Dawn, that is. I always get mixed up with Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, because Radiant Dawn, it comes out, its story events are after Path of Radiance, which is weird. Moving on to the other things then. Most of this Direct was focused on the Fire Emblem mobile game. I don't have a phone, so that has no interest to me, so I'm going to ignore that. A Fire Emblem game was announced for Switch for 2018, but that's all it was, announced. They're basically just saying, we are working on a mainline Fire Emblem game for the Nintendo Switch. Honestly, I'm a little disappointed with the huge amount of focus on Fire Emblem, given this limits what Intelligent Systems can do with a lot of their other games. I'm still waiting on a new Panel de Pon game, for instance. And I know that previously Intelligent Systems hasn't been a huge team, so I don't feel they're able to make that many games all at once. So it's worrying that they've got so many Fire Emblem games in the works. At the same time, though, with stuff like Fire Emblem Warriors, they're probably only assisting at most, and it's Koei Tecmo doing most of the work. Fire Emblem Warriors had a brief trailer. There aren't really many details you can get out of that sort of like short-minute trailer, but I'm pretty sure I did see Chrom using his lance at one point. From the looks of it, the Fire Emblem Warriors may actually be carrying over the weapon mechanic element from Arslan, the Warriors of Legends, where you could switch your weapons mid-combo and sort of chain together combos and make them even longer. And that'd be really cool if it's done so, because I think that's a really good idea, and I think it would work really well with Fire Emblem, given how your weapons are, how the characters sort of fight is heavily affected by what weapon they've got equipped. Fire Emblem Warriors comes out autumn 2017, and it's also releasing on the new 3DS. In this case, I'm feeling okay with that, because barely, it's not going to be a 3DS sales cannibalizing the Nintendo Switch sales, because it's, from what I've heard, new 3DS exclusive. This also helps with the whole fact that the Warriors games, Hyrule Warriors, couldn't really play well on a regular 3DS, so, this is the good part. Going to try this Tippy Assam tea. Nice hint of flavour, but I feel I've put too much milk in it. It's dyed it down a bit too much. Yeah, less milk next time. Tippy Assam, I think the flavour's weakened too much by having a milky tea. Maybe I should at least let it brew for longer, alternatively. And let it brew for 3 minutes. So definitely I'll try again, both without milk and having it brew for longer and then putting milk in. But decent enough. And that's the end of the tea time. Yeah, there's that. Like I said, it was an 18-minute Fire Emblem Direct, and most of it was focused on the mobile game. There's barely anything to talk about, really, and I've just had the tea. So, cheerio! Except that would make this tea time a little too short. I know I've been wanting to keep the tea times shorter than usual, but 8 minutes, I think that's what I've recorded so far. That's a bit too short of a tea time, so I think I'll go on for a little bit more. I have just brewed myself another tea. Like I said, I've done a Tippy Assam tea once again, but I've done it for 5 minutes brewing and poured less milk in it, so hopefully I'll be able to taste it a bit more. I was originally going to be talking about Nintendo Switch games here for a moment, like top 6 Nintendo Switch games I like the look of at the Nintendo Switch presentation, but that kind of feels like a entirely separate presentation in of itself, so I'll talk about the reason why I watched the Fire Emblem Direct in the first place. Fire Emblem Warriors. I'm looking forward to Fire Emblem Warriors because, as I said, I enjoy Koei Tecmo games. I will admit, you may have heard me comment through the Diablo playthrough of Grin Brothers, comment about Arslan, the Warriors of Legends. After completing it, I found that I wasn't a huge fan of Arslan, the Warriors of Legends, but my main criticisms were actually directed towards the story rather than the gameplay. The gameplay has lots of cool ideas, which I think would work really well in regards to Fire Emblem. Stuff like the weapon change mechanic will work really well with Fire Emblem, given you can have different weapons for the characters. Another thing that would work really well is the commanding of the army units. Again, effectively taking the role of the army units you'd have in Fire Emblem, except for these would be more grunts. Given that your characters are often leading an army in Fire Emblem, this makes perfect sense. Another element that would be pretty cool is the horses. How you're able to call a horse in Arslan, the Warriors of Legends. But this would be even cooler in a Fire Emblem Warriors game, because certain classes could have unique horses. For instance, any of the Pegasus Knights, they could fight off of the horse, but then it could also, when they summon a horse, they don't get a regular horse, they get a Pegasus. And that alone would be pretty darn cool. And it would also be their primary way of fighting, rather than primarily fighting off of the horse. Which again, yeah, like I said, I think would be cool. In terms of characters, as I said, I'm not a huge fan of Fire Emblem, so I don't really have much knowledge to go on. I've played a little bit of Fire Emblem Sacred Stones and Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, but not really delved enough, really. And I've done some research, because I used to do Super Smash Bros. Fanfiction, so I actually bothered to research things, so I wasn't making the same mistakes everyone else were when they horribly mischaracterized Marth and Roy. But in terms of characters, well, the Lords are probably the first ones who should be considered, and I think, although as I noted, like, characters can have multiple weapons, a lot of the original sort of Lords stuck with only the swords, usually the rapiers. Of course, certain sword characters will fight completely differently, depending on what style of sword and such. Like, you're not going to expect Ike or Lyn to fight the same, despite how they both use swords, because they're completely different types of swords and different types of style of swordsmanship. But at the same time, I think it'd be cool to have characters whose base weapon isn't just limited to swords. And of course, think of the Lords as the first sort of place to go with. Hector uses an axe as his primary weapon, Ephraim from Sacred Stone uses a lance as his primary weapon, and Messiah uses light magic as her primary weapon. So these are Lords I feel would make sense adding from an initial basis, on the basis that their primary weapon, of course other Lords would be able to change their weapon and probably have unique styles, but all the same, the more that can be made unique about them from the get-go, both in terms of what they're wielding and how they actually wield it, is for the better. But as I said, you know, Ike or Lyn would not play similarly, so a lot of these Lords could be differed in terms of their fighting style. And of course, I hope for a lot of for there to be plenty of Fire Emblem characters who aren't limited to just Lord classes. You know, end up having a variety of the characters. I'm fully expecting Alm and Celica, maybe both, maybe the tag team. I'm expecting them to be playable, given Fire Emblem Gaiden. That seems very likely now. And as I said, in terms of who I'd want, I don't really have many I can really call upon to who I'd want. I'd like Messiah in the game. I've liked Messiah's design and the fact that she uses light magic. I'd like Erica in the game, because Fire Emblem Sacred Stones is the Fire Emblem I'm most wanting to play, really. You know, sit down and actually play through properly. As it was basically the game that interested me most from the 3DS Ambassador program. I like Robin simply because I main her in Smash. I use her as one of my mains in Super Smash Bros. 4, and I really like her design. Of course, they could end up having it just as a male, which would be a little bit annoying, but I'm assuming they'd have the costume switch sort of thing to have it so you could play as both genders. Soren, I liked from my small experience playing Path of Radiance. He's a pretty cool character. And, of course, the Fire Emblem series' most prominent character is Anna, I believe, who has appeared throughout multiple games, so I feel it just makes sense to have her as a playable character. And I guess for anything else I'd like to see, aside from a lot of the mechanics coming from the Arzen series, I'd really like to see Tokyo Mirage Session Sharp FE costumes in the game. Not saying I want a character from Tokyo Mirage Session Sharp FE, I don't think that's likely to happen, but the costumes that Chrom and such have, that'd be pretty cool if they were able to have them as an optional costume within the game. And I guess that's really all I can say in terms of what I want at the moment. I mean, more of it will come to mind at a later point in time. I guess I mostly just want it to be a fun Warriors game, which isn't hard to do, but I'm curious as to how they're going to implement the strategy elements of the Fire Emblem series. I kind of feel that's something that you really need to think about how to incorporate in terms of, given Fire Emblem is an SRPG, making it feel more like a strategy-focused sort of style of Warriors game. I feel, again, the Arzen mechanics, the mechanics they came up with Arzen the Warriors of Legend, will implement really well into sort of giving some strategy to Fire Emblem and getting that army feel and military feel to it. But I feel a little bit more could be done. I imagine the weapon triangle is going to be there, and I think that's going to be a lot more obvious than it was in Arslan, whereas Arslan, I felt not much of it was clearly demonstrated, as it were. I could never tell whether I was actually effectively hitting the opponent. So some more visual cue or colour cue would be really helpful in that regard. Yeah, and really wanting, again, basically how they'll incorporate the strategy element. That will take a lot of pondering to do, but otherwise I can just wait, sort of sit back and see how they take a SRPG and turn it into a Warrior series whilst keeping it well attached to its roots. Now I'm going to try some of this Tipiasam tea. This time it is going to be, it has been brewed for longer with less milk, so let's try if I can taste more of its, well, flavour. That still has a surprising amount of a sweet edge to it. I'm tasting more of the malty flavour. Yeah, that's definitely the aftertaste. Aftertaste is definitely the malty flavour. Not you know, I think I need to get a balance with the milk and the how much I've brewed the tea, but the sweet taste as it sort of first enters is pretty nice, and the malty taste a little bit too strong after a while, but is nice at first. So yeah, decent tea, Tipiasam. I think I prefer regular Assam, but it's got a lot of things going for it. So that was my tea time on the Fire Emblem Direct, as well as just some of my thoughts on Fire Emblem Warriors, some of the things I hope for, and some of the things I'm interested in about it as to what they do with it. And so, of course, feel free to share your own opinions. What did you think of the Fire Emblem Direct? Anything that interested you in it? Particularly? And what do you think of Fire Emblem Warriors coming out for the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo new 3DS? I'm of course interested in it primarily because it's a Warriors game rather than a Fire Emblem game, but Nintendo Warriors game is still cool to see. So yeah, feel free to share your thoughts, and thank you for watching. I hope you've had a good time. Cheerio, everybody!